Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel, where you'll find some of the most fair and honest game reviews out here. And finally, we get to talk about another Kirby game. I've been excited for this for quite a while. As you can tell, I even pre-ordered it to get these little pins here. That's how hyped I've been for this game. But this one is a little bit different than what we looked at in the past. There's a couple things that are very unique about this game. So did it end up really good or not so good? Let's talk about it. Once again, we find ourselves checking in with the Pink Puffball for his latest adventure. Only this time, things are presented in a whole new dimension. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the 17th mainline entry of the franchise for the Nintendo Switch. What makes this game special, however, is that it's the very first Kirby game to be a full 3D platformer. It still contains the cornerstone parts of the 2D Kirby games, but presents things in a totally new way. The story in here begins when Kirby and most of Dreamland get sucked into a giant portal that randomly appears in the sky, dropping all of the Waddle Dees and Kirby himself in a place called New World. It's basically a modern day abandoned world where nobody's around, but it's been overrun by the ferocious Beast Pack. These are furry creatures that have gone out of their way to kidnap the Waddle Dees stranded in New World for some nefarious purpose. Shortly after arriving, Kirby saves a small creature named Elfilin from being captured by the Beast Pack. He then offers to help Kirby find and rescue the missing Waddle Dees. In typical Kirby fashion, things are way more than what they seem at first. The Pink Puffball will find himself clashing with new enemies, obtaining new powers, and uncovering the dark truth about this strange new world. While this may be the first 3D game of the series, it's still a Kirby game at heart with its colorful visuals, simple gameplay, and plenty of cute and cuddly moments. Right from the start, I guarantee you're gonna have a big grin on your face. So this Kirby game has a lot of good things going for it, even though it's not the best story out there, let alone the best story in the whole series. For some people it might work, for some people it might not, but Kirby's stories in hindsight haven't been all that deep. They know exactly what they want to be. They're very lighthearted in nature, but the one thing about this game is that there's so much plot and big revelations just kind of dropped on top of you towards the later portion of the game. I want to say like the last 30 or so minutes when you get to those final stages. But the other thing on top of that I should mention is that this game has 3 endings, and you don't necessarily need to get 100% of all the stuff in the game in order to see them, which personally for me is a good thing. But what I will say is that the presentation, the visuals, and the music of this game is just so fantastic. Like, I love this lighthearted, cute and cuddly vibe that I get from playing through the entire game. I feel like even if you're just someone that loves those realistic, gritty type of games, you'll have a smile on your face when you're playing through Kirby, and I always feel that throughout most of the games I've played in the series. What's cool about this one is that when you think you're kind of just good with this and you're kind of just rolling with what the game gives you, it kind of drops in another thing on there that just makes you have a little grin. It's just Kirby himself is so cute, and all the enemies themselves have this cute and cuddly feel to them that you can't just help but be like, okay game, you got me, I'm with this for the long run. And it really starts at the very beginning when you first see Big Mouth Mode, which is one of the new abilities that Kirby has. When they start playing that little theme song, it kind of feels like an anime opening, or one of those long introduction sections to an anime movie. It just hit all the right notes. Now don't get it twisted, there are some darker elements to this story like it is with previous Kirby games, but it's done in a way that I feel is clever, where it doesn't really bang you over the head with it, but it also doesn't shy away from certain things, which I won't spoil what it is in this game that's really important, but definitely expect to see some things that you never really saw coming. So with that being said, let's get into the gameplay, because you guys know I like the gameplay of many Kirby games we reviewed on this channel, but what is it about Kirby and the Forgotten Land that not only does some good stuff, but also mixes it up really good for the entire series? Let's get the comparison out of the way. Kirby and the Forgotten Land has many similarities to Super Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch. I wouldn't blame anyone for taking a look at this game and immediately thinking of how it plays very similar to that one. The visuals and camera perspective seem directly pulled from it too. But this Kirby game has so much more going on with it. As this is the first true 3D entry of the series, you'll have lots of space to move around within each of the game's 6 main areas, with a bonus location for the post-game. Controlling Kirby feels very good. Responsive and intuitive controls have always been a highlight of the series. Much like in the 2D games, Kirby can run around, float in the air for a bit, and inhale enemies to obtain new copy abilities. Using copy abilities can be super helpful for getting around obstacles and defeating other enemies, as well as completing challenges to rescue all the Waddle Dees hidden within each stage. Doing so will not only open up boss encounters towards the end of each area, but will also unlock new places you can visit within the Waddle Dee town. You'll definitely want to find all the Waddle Dees you can so you can unlock things such as the item store and Waddle Dee's weapon shop to upgrade your copy abilities. Yeah, Kirby can now make his abilities even stronger if you bring any blueprints that you find to Waddle Dee within the weapon shop, giving them a bigger boost in power and in capabilities. I like this a lot because there's a lot of copy abilities to upgrade, with a few extra surprises. Each of them are helpful in their own right, making them very versatile in almost any situation. This is great and all, but Kirby also gets some new powers too, even if you can't really call it that. Yeah, let's talk about Big Mouth mode. This is something that's gotten a lot of attention, and I won't lie, the idea of it sounds lazy at first. Kirby just tries to swallow an object and gains a new power for not really doing so? It really does sound lame. But within the game itself, Big Mouth mode is a very clever ability that lets you traverse obstacles a little differently and solve puzzles in unique ways. Kirby can inhale a car, a traffic cone, an archway or gear, and a few other things I won't spoil in here. Each variation has its own unique ability that is contextual to the stage. While this works out good for the majority of the game, the powers are only limited to specific scenarios. You're not really taking them into other places beyond where they're supposed to be used. Later parts of the game have you switching between different Big Mouth mode objects to get around some challenges, but that's as far as they really go with it. You don't get to upgrade Big Mouth mode in any way. Nothing wrong with any of that, but it's kind of noticeable. I give credit to HAL Labs for not overusing Big Mouth mode, because this could have honestly turned out very annoying very quickly. So 2 more things that I want to discuss in regards to the gameplay. Number 1, these bonus Treasure Road challenges that are littered throughout the map. You could complete each one of these that you find throughout all the different areas within the game, and they give you these rare stones that you could use at the Waddle Dee weapon shop to upgrade your copy abilities. That's great. But here's my little issue with them. The main thing is that you don't get any sort of extra reward for hitting all the target times within all those challenges. They have these like specific times that they want you to reach that give you a little bit of a bonus and coin rewards. That's totally fine. But if I do all of those, I'm not getting anything more for that. Like I don't even get like, I think like one of those little frames in Kirby's house or any sort of like really big reward, which I think would have been appropriate. The reason why I say this is because those target times and those challenges, they're not easy. At least the majority of them are not easy. They'll require some effort to hit those. I played through all the challenges by the time I finished the game, and every single time I tried to go for those target times, there'd be moments where I'm like this off, like the milliseconds off from the actual target time, and I would have to redo the entire challenge over again. Luckily, most of these challenges don't take a long time to complete, but it can get frustrating when you're going through like 5, 6, maybe 7 different tries, and you're like that far off. It could get a little bit annoying. Now, of course, the other thing we do have to talk about is co-op multiplayer, which is a great thing. You saw this in my previous review of Kirby Star Allies, but with here, it's just 2-player co-op. You could play as both Kirby and Bandana Waddle Dee. I almost say banana every time I mention that, but Bandana Waddle Dee is your player too. The one big complaint or nitpick I could say about this, because the mode and the gameplay itself is not bad, it makes most of the fights in the game a little bit easier, but I would have loved to actually have the ability to switch out different characters instead of Bandana Waddle Dee. I mean, Meta Knight is like hanging on top of the Coliseum, he's just there. Why can't I use him as like a bonus playable character for co-op? I mean, it would have been nice maybe as using him as a reward for doing some of the other extra challenges that, like I complained before, don't really give you anything for doing them. Or even later on in the game, which is a mild spoiler here, but King Dedede is in this game. Why not actually use him, or maybe one of the other Waddle Dees, like, you know, with the Parasol or something? A little bit of something extra for having with the co-op mode would have only made it better, because the co-op mode itself is great. Just playing through this game in co-op or playing a little bit of it in co-op like what I did, totally fine. But I just feel like some of these other things could have been taken a little bit further to make this even better. Now, I do have to say, the majority of my own personal experience was done in solo mode, not really in co-op, but still, the co-op multiplayer is a lot of fun. If you have somebody else that you want to play through the game with, or maybe even a couple of stages, you could drop in and out with co-op, which is totally nice. It's a great option to have. But you don't also get anything for completing the game in co-op. There's no like extra thing that you need here or anything that you're given towards the end. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's talk about something that I've harped on for the longest with the Kirby series, and that's the extra content or the post-game stuff that you see when you finish with the main story. Does Kirby and the Forgotten Land get all this stuff right finally, or is there other stuff that I feel like we need to criticize? To be honest with all of you, there's some things to talk about here. My biggest criticism about the Kirby games is how the completion bonuses and extra content you get aren't always the best. If you watch any of my Kirby video reviews here on the channel, I've said that the rewards you get for completing everything doesn't always match up to the effort that you put into it. In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I once again find myself arriving to the same opinion. There's 300 Waddle Dees to find in the game, which you could complete by finishing all the objectives in every stage. Getting a specific amount of Waddle Dees along the way opens up new buildings within Waddle Dee Town. This is how you unlock the movie theater, the Battle Coliseum, the cafe, a fishing spot, and much more. But what happens when you find all of the Waddle Dees and finish the game? Well, not much actually. You get a very small cutscene where 2 gold statues of Kirby and Elfilin are built in the center of the town. You're also given a present code that you could use at Waddle Dee deliveries. Using it gives you 1,000 coins and 1 rare stone. That's about it. I don't know about you, but this feels meager to me. Yeah, it's a completion reward, but after replaying levels multiple times and going through all the objectives, I would rather get something more significant. Some of the objectives for getting the Waddle Dees are not easy and may require a few tries, so I think the game should have given you a better reward for doing them all. Something like unlocking a new copy ability I can use, or a special cinematic I could view at the movie theater would have been really cool. Like I mentioned earlier, you also don't get anything of significance for hitting all of the target times within the Treasure Road stages. All of this just feels very slim and underwhelming to me. The only other thing that changes as you complete tasks within the game are the pictures you see hung up on Kirby's wall within Kirby's house. Finishing the Coliseum Cups or the extra post-game area will get you more frames. But once again, this doesn't feel like a satisfying reward when you finish everything. I get the argument is that it's more about the journey than the destination, but I don't feel that holds up here. The truth is, I don't feel like they've gotten this aspect of the series quite right yet. So if I'm being real here, I do like some of the extra content you get in the game, including the Waddle Dee band that you have where you could upgrade their stage and they play different music within Waddle Dee Town. And I also like the capsule figures you could collect, not only from finding them in the stages, but also going to the little dispenser and getting the different volumes of figures. That stuff is fine, that stuff is cool, it's a nice little accent on everything else. But if we're talking about real big unlockables and big goodies for completing most of the stuff within the game, that's still something I feel like I gotta harp on. It's just that once you collect a lot of Waddle Dees, once you get to about the 200 mark of Waddle Dees, you're not really getting anything else as far as like expanding the town, any other big unlockables, any other big bonuses, other than maybe what feels like a pat on the back with those 2 gold figures in the center of the town. That's just kind of it, and by that time, you can't even really appreciate that because you're finished with everything in the game. I would have loved if there was some like extra abilities or extra characters or other stuff that is a real big impact for when I'm actually still playing the game. That type of stuff I would have really appreciated, but alas, we got what we got here. Now, the other thing I do want to mention that I feel like we're going to get with Kirby and the Forgotten Land is DLC content, and I have a perfect approach for how this can work. My thing is I either want to see extra characters that you can play with in co-op mode, but also extra stages and extra locations, maybe even based on classic Kirby games. Because there's so many nods to classic Kirby stuff, even some of the previous games on Nintendo Switch, that you could even view within Kirby's house. Wouldn't it be fun to actually go revisit like, new renditions of those stages, but done in the same style as Kirby and the Forgotten Land? Like, how awesome would that be? Or even super classic stages like Dreamland itself or Wispy Woods from like the first couple Kirby's Dream Land games, or even other stuff from like cult classics like, Kirby and the Squeak Squad, Kirby Planet Robobot, but stuff like that but done within the style of like Forgotten Land, To me, that would be really freaking cool, and it'd be awesome DLC that I feel like a lot of people will get excited about. Again, maybe that's just wishful thinking, but if we're gonna talk about like bonus, like post-game content stuff, or things to kind of keep this momentum going with Kirby, that feels like the perfect way to do so. When all is said and done, how does this game shape up for the pink puffball? Can I recommend that you pick up Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Nintendo Switch? I would say yes. Despite my own criticisms, I still feel this new Kirby game is a lot of fun to play. I adore the colorful visuals and the wholesome attitude throughout the experience. Whether you're playing the game solo or co-op with a friend, there's a lot of good in here that I know you'll love. And for his first 3D outing, I could say that Kirby makes the leap with a lot of success. There's a ton of great times ahead for everybody's favorite pink puffball. And there you go, everyone. Those are my thoughts about Kirby and the Forgotten Land for the Nintendo Switch. I really like this game. I had a lot of fun playing through it, despite my little criticisms and complaints about certain aspects of the game. I still think this was a fantastic experience that you should definitely play if you own a Nintendo Switch. And that's the thing, like, I feel like I got my money's worth out of this game, especially with the pre-order, because, like, what more can I really ask for? Like, the game just sounds great, it plays great, there's a lot of stuff in there to enjoy, either solo or with a friend. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and I feel like if you're into 3D platformers, or just really good Nintendo first-party games, you gotta own Kirby on the Nintendo Switch. It just worked out very well. But of course, like any other game that I review on this channel, that's just my opinion about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Let me know your own thoughts about this game down below in the comment section. Tell me, are you a big fan of Kirby? Did you like Forgotten Land if you even picked it up? What are some other games that you want to see kind of get the Forgotten Land treatment, where there may be 2D or 3D, but you want to see them in like a 2D or a 3D style, something different than what they had beforehand? Talk to me about that stuff down below in the comment section. Hey, thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it enough to check out some of my other videos I'll list here on the side in just a moment. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel to see new content that I post up as it goes out. You can also join my Patreon for early access to new videos and exclusive content you'll only see over there. Don't forget to join my Discord server via the link in the description too. There's a lot of great people who love gaming and make an amazing community in there that I know you'll love being part of. Hope to see you again real soon. Peace out and stay epic, everyone.